Welcome to the Opinionated Geek podcast. This is going to be a really short podcast because of a couple things. One, this was actually going to be, well, it's not. This is not the reason why it's short. I'm just talking out of my ass. Uh, but yeah, I work retail, sadly. So due to that, my life has been currently crazy because of the season that we're in. So until that starts to slow down, I haven't had a whole lot of time to do anything, and I definitely haven't had time to game. So there's no updates as far as what I've been doing as far as gaming, because I haven't gamed at all. And so we're just going to get on to news that I kind of found kind of cool and interesting. So, first one is Dreamcast has turned 20 years. Now this is the Japan release, because at first I was like, wait a second. Ours came out on 9/9/99. And I was like, wait a second. It didn't come out in November, but this is the actual Japan release. So, as far as the overall life of the Dreamcast, it is 20 years old. Now, I bought the Dreamcast. It was actually my first Sega console because I was a Nintendo guy all my life. And I think it's definitely a little on the underrated side. I know, at least to me anyway. I would say that there's a lot of people out there that really love the Dreamcast, and I would say that the Dreamcast is probably one of my second favorite consoles, next to the Super Nintendo. It's just got a lot of really cool and unique games for the console. Soul Calibur, well, besides the arcade, it originated on Dreamcast originally, and fell in love with that. It had the first Berserk anime slash manga video game, and right now there's so far that there's only been two Berserk games that have came out for in the U.S. I want to say there's a total of three overall, but only two have made it to the U.S. One was on PS2, and that never came to the U.S. sadly. But yeah, definitely one of my favorite consoles, and I still have it actually. Granted, it's not my original one. I've bought the Dreamcast now a total of 3 times, and third time's the charm. I'm not getting rid of it this time. It's one of those things where I started to realize it's pretty stupid and useless to trade or give away consoles, uh, because I always want to go back and play certain games, and I can't do that if I don't have this stupid thing. So anyway, yeah, Dreamcast, 20 years old, pretty awesome. And if you haven't got around to messing with the Dreamcast, maybe you should. You can check out some emulators and stuff. One thing I will recommend, if you do some investigating, uh, they said one of the downfalls of the possible downfalls of Dreamcast was the fact that you can copyright, or you can just burn a game to a CD and play it right on the Dreamcast. Now, this is true to a certain point. There's certain ones that actually do not have that feature, but I think overall, the majority of the ones I think do, because to be honest with you, uh, I didn't know about it at the time with my original Dreamcast when I bought it brand new, but my first used one and even this used one that I have now both can play burnt games, but if you do a little bit of investigating, the Dreamcast actually had a very, very good uh, DRM on it. But there was one loophole. Over in Japan, they had whatchamacallit, karaoke CDs that you could buy specifically for the Dreamcast. And somehow, with some sort of way that they actually can make the discs and convert it into ISO form, they somehow convert it to make it so that it can go through the karaoke way of doing stuff instead of the DRM way. And I guess it somehow tricks the DRM to thinking it's a karaoke CD. Now, the problem with that is people have concluded that it kills the drive and I guess the Dreamcast overall a lot quicker, because the Dreamcast wasn't meant to play those karaoke discs like hours at a time type of thing, and it will basically quicken the life of your Dreamcast. So my guess is, due to that little loop hole, I would strongly advise not using burnt discs on your Dreamcast and try to find the actual discs, even though Dreamcasts are, at least they seem to be anyway, a dime a dozen type of thing. I've bought mine, my first used one for like $15, and I want to say it was probably roughly around the same with my second one, if I remember correctly. So they're not too hard to come by, but nonetheless, it's one of the things where it's like, eventually, they're all going to be gone. So take care of your Dreamcast. Try to use actual retail copies of Dreamcast games, because it apparently does quicken the death of your Dreamcast. All right, this is pretty cool. Neon Genesis Evangelion is going to be coming to Netflix pretty soon. Along with 2 films. Let's see if we can't find out what time that, or be available. Oh, they'll be available spring 2019, but nonetheless, it's still cool that it's coming out on Netflix. This is one of those animes that was, I guess, kind of like defined anime back in the day. You had your like earlier stuff, but I think this is one of those ones that helped like push it into a lot more mainstream than what it was back in the day. And it's one of those ones that I always kind of wanted to actually have, but I've never gotten around to buying the series. Now, I've seen the series though, because my one friend loves anime, and he's collected quite a collection. And back when I lived in Pennsylvania, I actually was able to sit down with him and watch it. It wasn't enjoyable from what I remember, but yeah, it's gonna be coming to Netflix spring 2019. Also, I didn't like make an image, and it's something I really don't care to talk about too much, because I haven't checked out any of the other live action anime stuff yet, but they have announced that Cowboy Bebop, they're going to be doing a live action Cowboy Bebop. I'm not sure if it's just a movie or if it's going to be a TV show uh, for Netflix, but I hold my I hold my opinion on that because for the most part, there's from what I gather, not a whole lot of people are enjoying the live action films that they've done so far. I haven't checked out Full Metal Alchemist yet. I need to because the trailers made it look cool, and it even made it look like it was actually going to have a little bit of that vibe that they actually normally have. Whoops, I am clipping. So we'll have to wait and see what I think about that whenever I get around to it. It's one of them things where it's on the wish list, but whenever I the wish list, the playlist, the to watch list. There you go. And it's always on there, but I'm just like whenever I'm uh, about to watch it, I'm just like, I don't feel like watching it. So maybe we'll watch it one of these days when I'm not so busy. All right. And now, shockingly, the FTC is going to start investigating loot boxes as a possibility of pushing kids into the idea of gambling. And this is one of those things. It's just like the rating system. It's like all you guys got to do is self-regulate yourself. You guys did it with the rating system, and I think you should be doing it with this. And it shouldn't even go this far to the point where the Federal Trade Commission has to go this far. Now, granted, I believe that's what happened with the rating system, and then the video game industry said, "Look, we don't want you guys getting involved. We'll set up our own little, association or whatever, and we'll make sure that all of our games are rated from now on, so mothers and parents don't get angry." And overall, it's kind of worked, and they've done a good job. But now we're on to this new realm of gaming where in order to keep the games at $60, we need to find out ways to make other money. Now, my issue is I don't mind loot boxes at all. I think Overwatch is probably the most lenient because nothing. It's still BS to me because only at certain times can I get the skin that I want, and then even then, I can't buy it during that time too. So if I got enough, I forget what they use for Overwatch, but we'll just use the word gold. If I got so much gold through purchasing loot boxes and getting doubles of stuff, and I've gotten enough gold to earn me that item that would cost around 1,200 or whatever it is for the premium skins. I can't buy it because it's for the Halloween thing. So in order to get that, I need to get it through a loot box, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, because when they end those events, also, then it locks it completely out. So even if you get loot boxes, you can't get that loot box anymore. So you can't get those skins until next year, type of thing. So that's can be an issue with that element. I don't like because there's some skins that I would just like to just go ahead and buy, but I can't because I have to wait until a certain time of the year. And if I forget about that certain time of the year, then I'm screwed just all around. So it's annoying. Then you have the idea with Overwatch, which really annoys the crap out of me, is the fact that I do have to continue to get loot boxes or buy loot boxes so I can get this so-called in-game currency to purchase the skins. This is where I'm just like, I get why they do it because it's a real money maker for them, but there's people like me that just like, I just want that skin. I should be able to just purchase that skin with money and not in-game currency. And this is the element that starts to add the gambling mechanism. And I'm not sure if all games are like this. I'm not sure if some loot boxes that you don't get any in-game currency type of thing. And if that's the case, then that's definitely, without a doubt, straight up gambling, because most likely you're getting loot boxes for something specific. And if you're not even getting in-game currency in those loot boxes, then without a doubt, it's gambling right up. Uh, yeah, I think they should have a system. Yeah, even a system to a certain extent, like PUBG, and I should say more so along the lines of Steam. Uh, Even though sometimes it's BS, because I remember there was like a $800 or $1,000 stupid white skirt that was going around PUBG. I'm not even sure if it's still, there's still expensive items like that, but it's still a lot. At least gave you the option to open up a loot box. If you don't want it, you can get rid of it, and people can buy it if they want. But it would be nice that it would be better if it was a little bit more controlled to a certain extent, with having Blizzard say, look, or any of the companies is like, look, here's all the stuff that you have, and you can buy any of it, or you can have fun, a little bit of fun, and do the loot boxes and kind of see what you get, type of deal. There should be options. There's nothing wrong with options. The more free, uh, the more free and open something is, the better, always. But it's hopefully that's what's going to happen with this. It's like, hopefully the rating system, uh, with the ESRB, hopefully they can actually implement loot boxes into the rating system, and we can avoid all this, because I don't want the government in my video games. I don't want government in my life in general, but I definitely don't want them in my games. So it's bad enough that they're now starting to creep into the internet and all that jazz. So yeah, again, stupid gaming companies being greedy, and because they're being greedy, it's starting to get government attention, and uh, we don't need to be regulated. I regulated is a bad word to me. Alrighty, next is kind of surprising. Prime. This is a kind of an old story. Uh, I think I forgot to mention it in one of my podcasts, but Prima Games is shutting down. I'm not sure when they're shutting down, but they are shutting down. To be honest with you, I'm blown away that they are still around. Uh, but I'm not the person that like has to buy everything when it comes to that type of stuff. Like when I get a game, I don't need to purchase a guide too. Now, I will say, and this is as far as I can remember, the only guide that I got, or I should say, not the only guide, the last guide that I remember getting is the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time guide, because it had a kind of a foil gold finish on the cover, and I thought it looked cool, and with the gold cart, the pre-order gold cart, Uh, I kind of wanted it to go with that type of deal. And obviously, a Zelda game, you don't need a strategy guide whatsoever. But I had to get it because I thought it looked cool. And I'm assuming that's the only reason that they have survived this long, because they came out with the special hardback versions, these premium edition strategy guides. So people that like to collect stuff are going to, every time they pick up a game, they're going to pick up that hardback book because it just looks cool. But I guess it wasn't enough. To be honest with you, I'm blown away. I mean, it's a publishing company. Start publishing really cool books. Like, you know, uh, for example, obviously this doesn't matter now, and I don't even think they had a shot at it. But for example, like Masters of Doom, that book's awesome. They should be, they should have started like publishing just gaming related books in general. Uh, Go outside. I think they did the history of Zelda one. I could be wrong, but nonetheless, that type of stuff. They should go out like about the actual like worlds that we love so much. Uh, Work with the companies and see if they can't hire like writers and stuff to like do more uh, stories about the worlds that we love so much and we never want to get out of them. Just stuff like that. I don't quite understand. To me, they didn't have to die out. I think they just stayed stagnant, and they were like, "Well, we do strategy guides, and that's all we're going to do." And I'm like, "Well, you guys print stuff. You know how much stuff there is that you could print, just like story wise, uh, with the uh, the gaming world. It's huge." But they decided to just stick with what they know, and that's what happens when you kind of stay stagnant. And that is a life lesson for this guy that he needs to learn. I stay stagnant way too long, and I tend to not want to grow, and I need to move forward and grow. I just don't know where I should put my foot next. But that's the issue with staying stagnant. I think you just need to go and do something, even if you think you might hate it. But I could be thinking a little bit too much of the this correlation, but I'm definitely stagnant, and I'm definitely feeling the pressure that I'm being put into a corner. Uh, and just to point out the fact that I was going to suggest this was going to be my last audio podcast because I can't afford $15 a month to keep the audio version going. And when you think about that, that's kind of sad. It's only $15. I should be able to do that, right? And this was the podcast I was going to say. We're going to do that. But then this morning, I know it's a small thing, and it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. But I got a message through my email that said I got a new follower on Podbean. And I'm just like, dang it. Because, for the most part, I mean, I see people download the audio podcast, but overall, it's like it doesn't feel like I'm making a huge headroom. Uh, if that's the correct term. Headway? Something? It doesn't seem like I'm progressing. There we go. With at least followers. And I'm like, well, if nobody's really like gun ho and they're not like spreading the word or whatever, maybe I should at least count the $15 and put that towards bills, and then just focus on doing the actual video version where I can actually upload it to YouTube. And as long as I do my tagging right and maybe come up with a better some sort of graphic that's points to the actual podcast and stuff. Because right now I don't put like an image for the thumbnail for the video. It's kind of just like a random picture between this podcast, and when it's just a stagnant picture of me and possibly a picture on the screen, it doesn't really. It's not really inviting to make you want to click on it. So I need to probably work on at least a stagnant thumbnail that's attention grabbing, makes you want to click on it. But anyway, we're going to attempt to try to keep the audio version up, and maybe I can keep on going but with the audio version. But right now things are getting kind of tight, but we're going to try to keep on doing it. And maybe I do need to set up my Patreon and get it up and running. And I'm just going to have stretch goals maybe, but I can't think of anything that I could really give people as like rewards for giving me money to keep the podcast going. All I can do is reward you by making the podcast better with a better green screen. All the stuff that I talked about, I think the last podcast or the podcast before that. Better green screen, better lighting, better microphone, better room isolation. I really want to do that bad, but that one costs the most, I think, in the long run. Yeah. So anyway, I'm going to call the podcast for the day. And thanks, even though it's a day late, and even starting it up was late, but we got there. Anyway, so thank you for watching or listening. I'll see you later. Bye.